What's up, everybody? So I was asked to do my thoughts on the Genestealer cults, do a ramble on it, and I figured why not? I'm a fan of the Genestealer cults, putting it out there right now. And it's something that has existed for a while now. And if you've never heard of it before, now that's probably due to the fact that, hey, um, they've been in the back burner for a long, long time, and they really have been. So it's a force that's existed since Rogue Trader era, basically. But post Rogue Trader era, it basically went away, for lack of a better term, or at least was put on the back burner, you know, and tucked away. So, truthfully, if it never came back, it really wouldn't have affected anything. It would just be a case of if you dug deeper into Tyranid fluff, you would discover them and say, hey, what's up with this? And then you would see nothing came of it. But the fact that it's back is cool. So, it's cool to see it, and if you don't really know what they're about, I'll do a really quick rundown for you on them. They're basically a Tyranid vanguard force that's going to get a planet ready for biomass absorption. But instead of just decapitating strike the planet or attacking it and brutally murdering most of its population or trying to, and just getting them ready for absorption that way, what the Genestealer cult does is much more insidious, much more subtle. Led by a Genestealer patriarch, the Genestealer cult itself, the brood that is a Genestealer cult, is all psychically linked and therefore 100% loyal. And they infiltrate a planet, and they kill stuff, of course, here and there, but they also infect. And these infected become Genestealer cult, stuff as well, proper, part of the brood, you could say. And you get Genestealer hybrids, human Genestealer hybrid forces. And eventually you do end up getting pure strains again as well, so it's an interesting kind of cycle. But they infect the population, and through having some mouthpieces, spread a false message of political or religious in nature, and try to appeal to the masses. They start off with the downtrodden, the mutants, and the indentured laborers and whatnot first, and then as they grow in power and prestige and get bigger physically and both with their pull, you could say, they start attracting attention elsewhere as well and getting supporters elsewhere. So they have support in two ways. Actually, the brood itself, with the Genestealer hybrids and whatnot, and with uninfected locals, the uninfected populace. There will be people who just climb on board and believe this false message being spread, and they're not infected. There's no need to necessarily infect them either. They will just become blinded by the lies and loyal to the Genestealer cult while still being regular people. So that works out very well also, because that's extra pull that lets they become a mouthpiece and able to attract more attention, get more followers, and so on. And it just is almost a self-perpetuating cycle if it works out right, and before you know it, the planet could be completely enthralled to the Genestealer patriarch and his cult. There was an old short story that depicted a Calidus assassin trying to infiltrate the cult to kill the patriarch, and without going into that aspect of it, they described the setting that the Calidus assassin is infiltrating, and it looks like business as normal. There's still an ecclesiarchal church, there's still worship going on with a god emperor, quote unquote, and business seems to be going on as normal. However, upon closer inspection, aka more description from the author, we see that things are off. A lot of the local populace look just a bit off. They don't look like stereotypical mutants you would expect from humanity that happens in 40k, but they look basically like Genestealer hybrids, the ones that are nearly purely human. And one of the best examples of the infiltration of the society was the worship. Yes, they're still worshipping the god emperor, quote unquote, but it's twisted. So there's mosaics and the like depicting the emperor overthrowing the enemies, right, of the Imperium and overthrowing chaos and all that. And at the climactic battle depiction, it shows the emperor transforming into a four-armed creature to overthrow the forces of evil, basically. So it shows the emperor transcending into basically the Genestealer patriarch and features and whatnot to destroy the enemy. So it just shows how subtly over time and through gathering their power, they're able to even corrupt the very spiritual worship of the populace to have it serve the Patriarch and therefore, by extension, serve the Tyranids. All this does is keep them further enslaved and enthralled to the cult, and keeps the population's resistance down and everything, and basically when the Tyranid fleet shows up to absorb the biomass, there's little to no resistance, and they're able to get a lot of free biomass, essentially. And that's the whole goal. Now, if they fail horribly in that goal, which they clearly have in the past, because the Order of Xenos has grown aware of them and how to combat them, essentially, with the Death Watch and Assassins and the like, then Civil War is probably going to break out. There's going to be a lot of infighting, a lot of battles happening, and if the Tyranid High Fleet arrive before massive Imperial reinforcements arrive, it still works out for the Tyranids, because they're able to attack a weakened planet and absorb it a bit easier than if it was a fresh foe to encounter. So it still kind of works out for the Tyranids. So with that said, that's kind of their whole shtick. And I find it really interesting. I really do enjoy that. It's very different from what we kind of grown accustomed to, and it's very different from what you would expect from Tyranids. Because we know the Tyranid hive mind is immensely powerful and intelligent and cunning and all that, but we typically associate that with controlling his broods, controlling his hive fleets, and laying waste to sectors of space. And I say his, it could be her, it's just a hive mind. But basically, that's what we associate with the cunning of the hive mind and the splinter fleets and the whole idea of being insidious tactically and all that. But we get to see it in a different, more subtle way with the Genestealer cult, because the Genestealers are a product of the Tyranid fleet, or the Tyranid race, right? A product of the hive mind. So we get to see Genestealers, which have always been depicted as intelligent creatures of the hive, and we get to see them do some really cunning stuff here as a Genestealer cult, and I like that. It's not the only subtle cunning force in 40k to destroy a planet. We have different cults out there of chaos that are subtle and cunning. We have stuff with even Eldar, and in some cases Dark Eldar for taking slaves and whatnot. But when it comes to all of that, there's usually some type of overt display at the end, some type of war or demonic incursion with forces of demons and chaos space marines pouring forth from a portal or something, or a full awakening of a tomb world to destroy everything or what have you. In the case of the Tyranids Genestealer cult, what I like about it is the refreshing difference. If all things go right, it stays subtle, and all of a sudden a planet just goes completely silent to the astropaths, and that's when something is deemed as being wrong. So I just like that type of approach. It's a very semi-Cthulhian aspect to it in a way, but it's also got a very different level of horror to it. It's a different type. I'm not saying it's at a higher level than other type stuff, but it's a different brand of horror element in there, and that's pretty cool. It makes a really good story potential. It works on the board game stuff. The story of the Genestealer cult, you get to see more of it that way. It can work really well using the RPG, such as Dark Heresy, Death Watch, Rogue Trader, or anything else from the Fantasy Flight stuff. It can work really well to do a Genestealer cult as the main antagonist and point of the whole campaign. That could be pretty cool. And I think, just as a random tangent here, if they ever were going to try and make a multi-platform video game again, consoles and PC, kind of like Space Marine, I think something like that again, but utilizing a Genestealer cult as the whole storyline of the video game could work really well. It can attract a different crowd. You can have it be a lot darker, more horror driven, and it could be a pretty interesting game, in my opinion. I think that'd be pretty cool. So anyways, that's just a quickish rundown and tangent on the Genestealer cults. Obviously, I'm a fan of it. I do enjoy it. I like that it's back in action like it is. While I'm not a fan of Unbound for 40k at all, I wish it wasn't a way to play. It does work in this instance, and it's not the only instance in where Unbound actually works really well, but it's one of the few. And in this case, you can represent a really fluffy and powerful Genestealer cult force by feeling the Genestealer cult formation in its entirety, and whatever point total you have left, assuming you do, depending on the point total game you play, you can spend on Imperial Guard assets to represent the local defense force that has been swayed to the Genestealer cult side and fight alongside them. and I think it works out pretty well. You can also do this with orcs or Tau. Now, there is something back in the day in the fluff of the Genestealer cult trying to infiltrate orcs with mixed results and stuff like that. But what I took away from that fluff, and I hope is still a thing, is the fact that Genestealer cults can infect other Xeno species, which makes sense when you think about it. The Tyranids came from beyond the galaxy. Why wouldn't they be able to infect multiple species from this galaxy? If they're able to infect one, why not others? And I hope that stays around. And if you wanted to kind of experiment with that a bit, I think two prime candidates are the orcs and the Tau, and you could do something similar with the Imperial Guard assets by doing that, but replace Imperial Guard assets with orc assets, if I could speak, or Tau assets. That's just food for thought, but really it works really well with doing the Imperial Guard assets and the Genestealer cult formation, considering these models and the like, and the fluff of it all right now is based off Genestealer human hybrids and the like, so I think it'll work out really fine just utilizing Imperial Guard assets. And that's really all I would go with it. The rest of the Imperium really isn't going to be swayed like a local planetary defense force can, because they're just normal people. They're not cybernetically altered or transhuman super soldiers or fanatically devoted warrior orphans or anything like that. So really it's just the Imperial Guard stuff that would get corrupted and believe the lies of a Genestealer cult. So anyways, with that said, that's my thoughts, my tangents, and my ramble on the Genestealer cult itself. It's a really cool thing that you can represent with its formation and then do some unbound stuff and go even crazier and whatnot. And I think that's pretty cool. So really that's about it. Share your thoughts on the Genestealer cults. Do you like them? Do you not like them? And why? What would you like to see come out of it in the future? Would you like to see that video game idea? I know I would, to be honest. I think that'd be pretty cool. And that's really that. So thanks for sticking through it. Hopefully this was helpful for some people. Hopefully you've enjoyed the ride. And until next time, take it easy.